Good morning, everybody. We are going to jump right in to the very beginning of chapter 1 in the Path of the Just. I don't know who has the book and who does not have the book. My recommendation is, if you're going to be following along with us, is to get this version of the book. We could put the link back up in the chat, and it's on the emails that go out, because this is the version that we're going to be using, and you'll be able to follow along a lot better if you're using this version. So I mentioned last week in the introduction that the Vilna Gaon, the great tzaddik and genius and Torah giant of the last 500 years, who lived in Lithuania, in Vilna, known as the Vilna Gaon, also known as the Gra, the Gaon Rebbe Eliyahu, the genius from Vilna. He said about this work. Remember, he and the Ramchal were more or less contemporaries. He lived a little bit after the Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, and he said about this book that in the first 8 chapters, at least, in the first 8 chapters, there's not a superfluous word in this book. Okay, not one word that is extra or that is not precise or that didn't need to be there. Almost indicating that the Ramchal wrote this book with some form of Ruach HaKodesh, clairvoyance on some level, which we know from the previous introduction that he probably did. So because of that, you'll have to forgive me if I get a little bit caught up in the words themselves and spend a little bit of time sort of dissecting the details of the words and how he puts these words together, because they are incredibly precise and meaningful. So we may not get past the first 2 sentences today, and that should be, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We're going to take our time and make sure that we understand this book as well as we possibly can. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read the first 2 sentences, and then we're going to slowly go through and break it down. So I'm not always going to do this, but in the beginning, I'm going to read the words in Hebrew as well as in English. As we get further on, I'll just read the English. It's not so important that I read the Hebrew, but you'll see here why, because we're going to be dissecting the words themselves. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and English. And I'm going to, okay. So the Ramchal starts off like this. So the chapter 1 is called Man's Mission in His World. And the translation here is excellent. And if you look at older translations of this book, the chapter would usually be called Man's Mission in the World. But you'll see that whoever translated this version was much more precise, because man's mission in his world is actually much more correct. So, because in Hebrew it says, Chovas ha'adam, the mission or obligation of a person, be'olamo. Because in Hebrew, the way to say world is olam. Olamo means olam shelo, his world. And we'll see that there's actually a lot to say about that. So the Ramchal starts off, Yesod HaChasidus, the foundation of piety. V'shoresh ha'avoda, and the root of avoda hatamima, of perfect service of Hashem, who is, she is barer. It's formed by a person clarifying, bias ames, and verifying, etzel ha'adam, a person should clarify and verify for himself, ma chovaso ba'olamo, what is his obligation in his world, ulama, and toward what goal, sarich shiyasim mabato magamaso, should he direct his outlook and his ambition, b'chol asher hu amal kol yimei chayav, in everything that he strives for during all the days of his life. Okay, we may not get past that first sentence, so let's just take our time over here, break it down, and understand what's going on. So first of all, I want to say that the Ramchal here talks about 2 things. He talks about foundations and roots. Now, this obviously, I want this to be a discussion, and everybody should feel free to jump in and participate in this as a discussion. Just unmute yourself if you want to say something or add something. So when we talk about foundations, we think about a home, we think about a building, we think about some kind of physical structure. And when we think about roots, we think about planting, we think about trees, we think about organic growth. And I think what the Ramchal right away is telling us over here is that this book is about building and planting. That's what this book is about. It's about building and planting. And when you build something, you can build the most magnificent structure in the world. But unfortunately, as we all learned through the horrible, horrible tragedy that took place earlier in Surfside this year, we know that if a building does not have the proper foundations, that building will not be able to stand and last for eternity. So when you build something, the most important thing to make sure is that the foundation of that building is chazak, that it's strong, that it's supported, that it's not going to compromise the integrity of the structure in any way. So that is the foundation of the of what we're going to be talking about here. And then there's shoresh. Shoresh is a plant. Shoresh is a root. And as we know that a tree, it teaches us in Pirkei Avot, in the Ethics of Our Fathers, which Ali is going to start teaching tomorrow, by the way. So you might all want to join her on that. That a tree can have the most magnificent branches and wonderful fruit growing on the branches, and it can be most spectacular in its appearance. But if it does not have roots that are solid and strong, then any wind can come along and blow that tree right over. Okay, so the Ramchal starts off right away and says, we're talking about building and planting over here. And if we're building and planting, we need a foundation that's going to be solid, and we need roots that are going to be strong. And that's what he's going to teach us how to do in this book. So he says the foundation of piety and the root of pure service in this world, which is what this book is all about. It's about how to reach a level of purity of our service of Hashem, so that we can learn how to truly dedicate ourselves and our whole existence to fulfilling our purpose in this world of being servants of Hashem, committing ourselves to Hashem and our Creator. So he says it requires a process over here, and he mentions two words. And those two words are yisbarer and yisames, or yitbarer and yitamet. And that means yitbarer means to clarify, and yitamet means, they use the word verify here. I like to use the word internalize. So clarifying and internalizing. And what he's describing here is a two-step process. We talked about this a little bit last week. There's a two-step process here. Anytime that you want to integrate knowledge of any form into your essence and into your being, you need to go through this two-step process. Because we know a person can have information that is in his mind, information that's in his brain. It's something that he knows. It's a zechira b'moach. We spoke about this last week. It's a knowledge that exists in his brain. But until it becomes a zechira b'leiv, until it becomes a knowledge that is internalized inside of his heart, it's not him. It's not her. It's not you. The goal, like, I don't have to be reminded, as I said last week, I don't have to be reminded that I love my children. No one has to remind me of that. I'm not going to forget it, because it's not information in my brain. It's information that is the very, very essence of who I am. It's integral. It's part and parcel of me. So the goal over here is for a person to clarify in his mind, obviously clarify intellectually, and then v'yisamet, and then to internalize it and make it part of who you are, make it an inseparable, intrinsic part of who you are, your essence, so that no one ever has to remind you of it, and it just becomes who you are and how you see the world. Now, what is that I'm trying to clarify and internalize? So the Ramchal says, Ma chovaso ba'olamo. What is my obligation? What is your obligation in your world? Now it's interesting. Right away, the Ramchal starts talking about obligations. Obligations. So that there's even on this word, there's a lot to talk about. That I have obligations. There is something that is expected of me, something that is going to be demanded from me. So I need to clarify. Now, clarify means, how do I clarify what my obligations are? I need to learn, study like we're doing. I need to investigate. I need to seek advice and consult with wise people who can help me understand what my obligations are in this world. Parents have that role with children to help them understand and help them to clarify what their responsibilities are morally and ethically in this world. So I need to clarify by my own study, my own investigation, consulting with wise people. And then I need to internalize that information, what my obligation is in this world. How do I bring it from my mind to my heart? How do I internalize it from information in the brain to information in the heart? That's what this book is all about. And that comes through the study of Musar. Study of Musar, like the Ramchal said in the beginning of his book. He said that Moshe Chaim Luzzatto said in the beginning of his book, I'm not coming to tell you anything in this book that you don't know. That's not the purpose of this book. The purpose of this book is not to tell you things that you don't know. It's to help you internalize things that you already know. So the way you internalize it is what we're doing right now, what we're going to be doing for the next period, the course of this study is we're going to be internalizing these ideas. You internalize them by discussing them, by sharing them. I mentioned last week a suggestion of maybe pairing up with a partner who you might want to break off with sometime during the week and touch base with and connect more deeply on these ideas. Another way we internalize ideas is through a process called hitbodedut. Hitbodedut, other than being a very difficult word to say in Hebrew, means, what does hitbodedut mean? It means alone time with Hashem. It means time where you are, just thinking, communicating, clarifying, internalizing ideas, talking to God personally, personal prayer. It's done in privacy. It's done without anybody around. And it's just a way for you to actually just kind of pour out your heart to God and to share ideas and to internalize ideas. That is the essence of what Hitbodedut is all about, and prayer. And these are the ways that we take the ideas that we've clarified about what my responsibility is in this world and what my purpose is in this world, and I bring it to a level of integration so that it's integral to who I am. Okay, so we see that we have obligations in this world. What is my obligation in this world? That there's something that I am supposed to be doing here. My existence is not random. On the contrary, my existence is incredibly purposeful and deliberate. And there was something that I was put here on this earth to do. Wow, that's amazing. Right away, in the very beginning, the Ramchal says it straight out. You're here for a reason, and you have to figure it out. You've got to figure that out. You've got to clarify it intellectually, conceptually, and you have to internalize it so that it becomes integral and part of who you are, what that purpose and what that obligation is in this world. Now, here I want to point out that in one letter in the Hebrew language, the Ramchal opens up a whole universe to us, because he doesn't say ma chov ba'olam, what is the obligation in the world. He says ma chovato ba'olamo. That vav personalizes it. That vav, that letter vav, changes it from what is the obligation in the world to what is his obligation in his world, or what is your obligation in your world? Meaning that even though we'll see soon, maybe probably next week, that there is a general, a universal purpose in this world, that we all share a universal purpose for our existence, a common purpose for our existence, which we'll talk about. But in addition to that general, universal, common purpose, there's also a specific, unique, individualized purpose that each and every single one of us has in this world. And I need to clarify what that is by consulting, by studying, by learning, by paying attention. I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. And I need to internalize, once I've clarified for myself what that purpose, unique purpose and mission is in this world, then I need to clarify it, and I need to internalize it and to make it an integral part of who I am. So what do I mean by paying attention? So I know most of you have probably heard me give this analogy at least once before in your life, but if you haven't, I'm going to, even if you have, I'm going to give it again. And that is the toolbox analogy. Okay. The toolbox analogy. What's the toolbox analogy? So I'll do it quickly because most of you have probably heard it at least a dozen times. The toolbox analogy is like this. You get a job, and the job is that you are a jack of all trades. You can fix and repair anything. And the way this job works is, after you're trained and you can fix anything, you show up at work in the morning, you go to the dispatcher hands you an address and says, here's where you're supposed to go, here's what you're supposed to fix in this particular person's house. He hands you the toolbox that you need to fix whatever it is that you need, that you're being sent to fix, and he sends you on your way. So one day you show up at work and he gives you the address, 130 Exmoor Court, and he sends you with the toolbox and he sends you over to the house, and you get there and you look at your little note, and it does, and the dispatcher forgot to tell you what it is that you're supposed to fix. He didn't tell you. Uh-oh, okay. So now, if you've heard this before, please don't answer, okay? But if you haven't heard this before, so the question that I would ask you then is, what do? You've been sent to this house to fix something, but you have no idea what it was that you were sent to fix. You knock on the door, and there's a note on the door. A note falls off the door. You look at it, it says, sorry, nobody's home, but please come in. And the door is open. Please come in and fix the problem. Great. Okay, wonderful. Fix the problem. But you don't know what the problem is. So if you haven't heard this analogy before, if you have, please don't answer. What do you do? What do you do? Unmute yourself and tell us what you would do in this situation.
I'd phone back to the office and ask what is the problem. And if there was no answer, you couldn't do that, I would look around the house and see if I could see the problem. Okay, excellent. Marilyn, you are amazing. So you run back to the office and no one's there. Oh, dang it. Okay. So now you go to plan 2. You go back into the house and you start looking and seeing what the problem is. And you start to look around and you notice the toilet's broken, the garage door isn't working, the computer seems to be broken, the washing machine is not working. Right? There are half a dozen things that are broken. Oh boy. Now what am I doing? I'd start at the beginning and do those, because those are problems, and I can fix everything. Just start somewhere. Just start somewhere. Start fixing. Okay. So you have a limited amount of time. So you start fixing the dishwasher, and then you go to the garage door, and then you go to the toilet, and then you run out of time, and then you leave. And then you find out that what you were actually supposed to fix was the broken chair in the living room. So you didn't fulfill your purpose. You blew it. Okay. It was a good try, but you didn't do it. So what's another option? What's another thing you can do? You want to make sure to get it right. So here's what you do. Remember, you were sent with the toolbox, right? So you open up the toolbox and you look inside and you see what tools were you sent with, and you can figure it out. You can work backwards, right? If you were sent with a plumber's snake, then you know, oh, I was sent to fix the toilet, right? If you were sent with a
special tool for fixing a washing machine, then you know you were sent to fix the washing machine. Okay, that's what you do. You look in your toolbox and you work backwards. What's the analogy? The analogy is that when we are sent into this world, we're sent into this world with a mission, a unique, individualized purpose in this world that we're sent here to achieve and accomplish. And we are sent into this world with a toolbox specifically designed for you to achieve and accomplish your mission. What's your toolbox? What's in your toolbox? Those unique gifts that you have. Those, we all have certain talents, certain gifts, certain qualities, certain traits that either come naturally to us or we excel in without much effort. Those are our tools. So what do we have to do? We're sent into this world to figure out what is our purpose, what is our mission, and work towards achieving and accomplishing that mission. The first thing I need to do is pay attention. Where are my gifts? Where are my talents? If Hashem gives you a certain ability, a certain talent, a certain gift, you know for sure that that's part of what you're supposed to be doing in this world. If you're a writer, then you know that you're supposed to be writing. If you're gifted musically, then you know you're supposed to be using your musical talent or your musical gift. If you're artistic, then you know if you've got a mathematical mind, then you know whatever it is, right? That is your toolbox. So you have to pay attention, clarify intellectually what your purpose is in this world, internalize it, bring it deep inside of you, make it integral to who you are. What is your special, unique purpose and mission in this world? Okay. And as I like to quote often, and I always point out, there's a big debate about who actually said this quote, whether it was Picasso or whether it was Shakespeare or the version from David Viscott, who was a radio personality. So the quote is that the meaning in life comes from finding my unique purpose. The work of life is developing and honing that unique purpose. And the purpose of life is giving that gift away. I didn't say it exactly right. The meaning of life is finding my gift. The work of life is developing my gift. And the purpose of life is giving my gift away to help other people and use it to make the world a better place. Okay, so let's review what we have so far. So we have a foundation as we're building. This book is about building. And we have a root, a shoresh. A shoresh is a root because we're planting. And what are we building and what are we planting? We're planting and building piety, chasidus. That means clinging to Hashem. That means being a good person. That means being a developed individual who's reached our potential in every way, and to be a servant, a pure servant of Hashem. And the way we do that is by clarifying intellectually and internalizing until it becomes a deep part of our essence and who we are. Ma chovato ba'olamo. What is your purpose in your world? What is his or her purpose in his or her world? What is your unique individualized purpose? Okay. So once I've clarified and internalized why I'm here, what my mission is, what my obligations are, then I have basically created what modern pop psychology, let's say, or corporate culture has called the mission statement. Okay, I mentioned this in the video this morning, that every company has a mission statement, every nonprofit organization has a mission statement, every family, functional and successful family has a mission statement. Many individuals have a personal mission statement. The L'Chaim Center has a mission statement. What is the mission statement of L'Chaim Center? To be a place for your Jewish journey, right? You have to have a mission statement. And sometimes it's a little cliche, but if you have a mission statement, then why is it so important to have a mission statement? I'll give you an example, right? We have a staff meeting every Monday. And last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago at our staff meeting, Julie had a great idea. Let's take out our mission statement. It was 2 weeks ago. Let's take out our mission statement and review it. Okay, so we took out the mission statement with the Levies and Ali and I and Julie. We took out the mission statement and we reviewed our mission statement. Why is it important to review the mission statement? Because then everything you do You want to do a program, you want to give a new class, you want to create an event, whatever it is, you have to weigh that vis-a-vis your mission statement and ask yourself, is this program, class, trip, whatever it's going to be, is it going to lead towards in an obvious direct way towards the fulfillment of our mission statement? If it is, let's do it. If it's not, if it's going to take us away, let's not do it. Okay, you have to know where you're going, and you have to have this mission statement. You have to take it out and you have to review it so that you can remember what your purpose is, what your mission is, and what it is that you're trying to do in this world. Okay, now once I have that personal mission statement, so every single thing I do gets weighed against that mission statement. I had an opportunity came up this week. Somebody reached out to me, wanted to know if I wanted to get involved with a certain program here in Israel. And at first I was like, ooh, that sounds awesome. That sounds exciting. That sounds really cool. I really want to do it. I'll just tell you what it was. They were looking for somebody to run trips to Poland for university students in America. And I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. I love to go, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. I started talking, and then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, stop. Take out the mission statement, my personal mission statement, and it didn't match up. It didn't fit in. It didn't fit into what I'm trying to do. And, and it gave me clarity. And I was able to call them and say, you know what, it's a beautiful opportunity. I'll help you find somebody else to do it. But I realized it's really not for me. It's not what I want to do. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't know what my mission is. So that's why it's very, very important to have that clarity. And then the Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, said that you have to apply that mission statement b'chol asher hu amal, in everything. Let me read it here in the words of his statement, that what you have to clarify and internalize what his obligation is in this world, and toward that goal he should direct his outlook and his ambition in everything that he strives for during all the days of his life. Now remember, no superfluous words, at least in the first 8 chapters. Okay, so when he says in everything that you strive for, in all the days of your life, you have to be working towards your purpose and your mission. So that means everything you do all the days of your life. So I have a question for you. Does that mean I can never go on vacation again? Does that mean I can never take a break? Does that mean I can never watch a Cubs game again? Although at this point, I can't imagine I ever will want to watch a Cubs game again. But does that mean I can never do anything fun? I can't go on a bike ride with my kids. I can't go out to eat with my wife, because it's not everything that I'm doing, right? If everything that I'm doing has to be towards my mission and towards my purpose and towards my obligation in this world every single day of my life, that sounds to me like no breaks, no vacations, everything. Everything means everything. So is that what he means? Is that what the Ramchal is telling us over here? No vacations, no hobbies. I can't have a hobby, right? If I like to, bike, or I like to, I don't know, whatever it is, collect baseball cards or collect stamps, I can't do that, because everything that's not everything, and every day has to be towards my mission. So no, that is definitely not what the Ramchal means over here. Of course, as human beings, we're built in such a way that we need breaks, we need vacations, we need distractions, we need hobbies. So, but you have to understand that not all vacations are the same, and not all breaks are the same, and not all hobbies are the same, right? Some breaks are going to help me to take a breath and to rebuild for the next stage of my fulfillment of my mission. I like to, I don't know if anyone is a Peloton rider over here, but I'm a Peloton guy. And one of my favorite coaches on the Peloton, this guy named Ben. And Ben always says the same thing. It's a 30-minute ride. It's brutal. If you do it right, it's brutal. You're schwitzing, you're dying, you're ready to just, just call it quits. And then he says, okay, 30-second recovery. And you're like, okay, 30-second recovery. But he says, now this recovery, I want you to recover for 30 seconds so that you can be ready to build the next section of this ride. Okay, that's what the Ramchal means. You take a break, you take a 30-second recovery, or you take a week vacation with your family, or you go enjoy yourself and do your hobby a little bit that you need to do, whatever, but not to take yourself away from your mission, not to lead yourself away from your purpose, but so that you can rejuvenate and recover from the work that you've been doing, so that you'll be ready when the vacation is over or the break is over to double down and work twice as hard on the fulfillment of your purpose and your mission. Okay, so therefore, when you're creating your vacation, or you're planning your hobby, or you're doing whatever it is that you're going to do to take a little break, you need to ask yourself, is this the type of vacation? Is this the type of break? Is this the type of experience that's going to allow me to relax, recover, and be ready to begin to rebuild? And if it is, beautiful. The Ramchal would advocate it 100%. So we're building and we're planting always, every day. And that, by the way, means that when you're on this vacation, if you're doing it right and for the right reasons in the right way, then at that moment you're also building towards your mission, because it's that vacation which is allowing you to have the strength to be able to come back afterwards and to go back in and to start working. So we're always building towards our mission, even when we stop to rest and regroup. And even if it's only if we can have, so that we can have more energy to rebuild and to replant. So we need to, again, clarify and internalize my purpose and my mission in this world, and create our mission statement. And we always need to, and I'm going to borrow from another quote from Pop Psychology, but you'll see in a minute that, like most great things in life, Stephen Covey definitely, either knowingly or unknowingly, got this from Torah. But one of the second habit of the habits of highly effective people, the second habit is, I'm sure there's some Bucky gurus here in the 7 habits. The second habit is start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. That's habit number 2. Okay. So where did he get that from? I don't know if he got it from here, but we say this in every week on Friday night in Lecha Dodi. In Lecha Dodi, the beautiful song that we sing Friday night, we say, Sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila, right? That Hashem, when Hashem created Shabbat, it's Sof ma'aseh. It's the last thing that he created chronologically, Shabbos, because it was after 6 days of creation. After 6 days of creation, God rested on the 7th day, and he created Shabbos. He created the concept of Menucha. It was Sof Maaseh. It was the last of his creations, but it was B'machashava Techila. But it was the first thing in his mind when he began creating. So that means that God was keeping the second habit of Stephen Covey. It's amazing. How did God know the 7 habits, Stephen Covey's 7 habits? He must have somehow, God knew Stephen Covey's 7. He started with the end in mind. The end was Shabbos. Shabbos is the goal. Shabbos is the tachlit. It's the purpose. It's where everything is moving toward. And even though it's last chronologically, but it was first in his mind. Hashem started with Shabbos in his mind. Hey, Rhonda. Started with Shabbos in his mind and moved toward that. That was his goal. Now, why is it important to start with the end in mind? Because you know what? When was the last time, think about this, when was the last time that we stopped and asked ourselves, what do I really want to achieve in this world? What do I want my legacy to be when I leave this world? What do I want them to say about me at my funeral after 120? Okay, so these are the things that we need to ask ourselves, because if we don't, then what ends up happening is, you can be climbing a ladder. Let's use this analogy. You can climb a ladder and you can be climbing and climbing higher and higher. And it looks like you're achieving and accomplishing and climbing because you're climbing the ladder. But if the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, not the wall that you're trying to scale or ascend, then the fact that you're climbing the ladder means nothing. You got to make sure that your ladder is leaning up against the right wall. So just because you're climbing and accomplishing and achieving, but if you're not climbing and accomplishing and achieving in the right area that you are supposed to be uniquely climbing and achieving and accomplishing, then you're not doing anything. So if you don't start with the end in mind, if you haven't clarified and internalized first and foremost, ma chovato ba'olamo, what is your unique mission in your unique purpose in this world, then you're climbing up the ladder that might be leaning against the wrong wall. So, this is like life coaching 101. Life coaching 101 is, begin with your dream. What's your dream? The question that most life coaches will ask you in the first session is, if you had $1 million, or if you had unlimited funds, if you won the lottery, you never had to work another day in your life, what would you do? Describe your dream life. Write it down and describe it and understand it and get clarity on that. And now, phase 2 of life coaching is, now we're going to get you there. We're going to figure out how you can build there. So, I think we all have friends. I know people. We all know people that went to law school. From the time they were in high school, they went to law school. They wanted to go to law school. They thought about it. They worked hard to get into college, get into the right college, get into the right law school. They went to the best law school. They started working in a corporate firm, sold their soul to the corporate law world, and they were working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, climbing the ladder of some corporate law firm, only to find out one day that, guess what? They hate law. They hate law. And they actually really, when they were a kid, they wanted to be a chef or whatever, and now they end up, quitting law. And I have a friend, somebody that we know, someone's involved in the L'chaim Center. She's a former attorney, and now she's a life coach. And her niche is she only coaches disgruntled lawyers who want to leave the profession of law after many years. That's her niche. And guess what? She's doing very well. Because sometimes we climb the ladder without realizing that the ladder is leaning up against the wrong wall. So what the Ramchal is telling us over here is clarify and internalize your dream, your vision, your mission. Clarify it and internalize it. Make it so deeply inside of you. I don't need to be reminded that I love my kids, right? I shouldn't have to be reminded what my purpose and what my mission is in this world. Know it, clarify it, and once you've clarified it, make it so deeply ingrained in who you are that it just permeates everything that you do. Okay? And then you go to the next level, which is everything that I do and all of my ambitions in everything that I do all the days of my life have to be pointed toward this goal. So in other words, I've clarified it and I've internalized my purpose and my mission. And then I have to go all in on that mission. I've got to go all in, fully committed. In everything that I do, all the days of my life, I have to toil. He uses the word toil. Toward what goal? In everything that he strives to do in all the days of his life. He doesn't use in translation over here, he doesn't use the word toil, but the word amal means toil. I like the word toil, right? You have to have clarity and internalize your purpose in this world. And then you have to be willing to toil, invest the blood, sweat, and tears, and make the hard sacrifices and the hard choices, and to be willing to leave the comfort zone, because it is my new quote. I can't say it enough. I love this quote. I've probably said it 20 times in the last 2 weeks since I found it, because we know that the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. That's what the comfort zone is. It's that place where your dreams go to die. So if you're not willing to leave the comfort zone, you're never going to leave. You're never going to be able to. If you're not willing to toil and make hard decisions. Somebody once told me, Rabbi Gershenfeld, a teacher of mine, once told me that, and I never really, sort of checked this out in a Latin dictionary, but the word to decide. Why is it so hard to make choices? When you have to make choices between one thing you want to do and another thing that you want to do, you have to decide. It's difficult. Why is it difficult? Because decide means to kill choices, right? Side, homicide, fratricide, side, genocide. The word side means to kill. And D, I guess, comes from the word to or options. So decide is to kill options. We don't like to kill options. We like to keep our options open. So sometimes when we decide to do X, that means we're killing Y. And we don't like to kill Y. We don't have to commit. We don't want to commit. We want to be able to, we don't have to make choices that are difficult and sacrifices. But if I know clearly, with total clarity, and I've internalized it, what my purpose is in this world, then I'm able to go all in and make the hard choices and the difficult decisions that I need to make. So we have to toil. There's a verse, you can look it up. It's in Job, in the book of Job, chapter 5, verse 7, in the book of Job. And the verse says, Adam la'amal yulad, that a human being was created to toil. A human being was created to toil. And the way the commentaries explain this is that, every animal toils. Every animal toils to find its food. Every animal toils to build its shelter. So what's different about human beings? So Vilna Gaon and other commentaries explain that we all toil, the cat, the dog, the lion, the mouse, the ant, we all toil. But human beings, toiling is the purpose of our existence. We're here to toil. I remembered this story. It was in the back of my mind, and I Googled it and I found it. Thank God for Google. You can find anything on Google. And I read the story again. It was something I'd heard years ago. So the story was, I'll tell you this story because it's a remarkable story. And it had to have happened because it was so clearly documented by so many of the great rabbis at the time. So the story was in 1954. It was winter. It was in Israel. The story took place in Israel. And there was a teacher in a cheder, in a school for little kids, who taught fourth grade. No, he taught 4-year-olds. It must have been like, preschool, Kita Aleph. And he had a 4-year-old kid. This teacher, this Rebbe, had a 4-year-old kid in his class. And he was teaching reading. He was teaching Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, Hey. And he realized that this 4-year-old kid knew how to read. Kind of amazing. But then he realized that this 4-year-old kid not only knew how to read, but he knew all the verses in the Torah by heart. And then as he got a little bit further with this kid, he realized that this 4-year-old kid knew all of the Mishnah by heart and all the Talmud by heart. And he realized that this kid was beyond some form of prodigy. He called all the rabbis, and there were great rabbis, names that we know. Aaron Cutler happened to have been visiting Israel at that time. He brought them all together to see this 4-year-old child. And they all attested to the fact that this 4-year-old child somehow knew all of the Torah, the written Torah, the oral Torah. It doesn't make any sense. I know we can't believe it. And they went to the parents, and the parents were concerned. They didn't know what to do. It was like a very, very big deal that this 4-year-old child knew all of Torah. So the Belzer Rav, one of the great Hasidic giants at the time, came to the only logical conclusion, which is that we know that the Medrash tells us that when a child is in the womb, that the Malach, the angels, teach this child Kol HaTorah Kula, the entire Torah. The entirety of Torah is taught to every child in the womb. Right before the child leaves the womb, the Malach smacks the child on the face, on the mouth, and the baby loses all of his Torah and he's brought into the world. So the Belzer Rav realized and came to the conclusion that somehow it has to be that the Malach forgot to smack this baby before he came out of the womb, because he's a 4-year-old child who's never been to school before, and he knew the entirety of Torah, the written Torah, the oral Torah, everything. So the newspapers wrote about it. People came from all over Israel to see this child, and they didn't know what to do. So they went to the Belzer Rav, and the Belzer Rav took this child into his room. Nobody knows exactly what he did, something in private. Maybe he smacked him. Maybe he did something. I don't know what it was. And then he brought him out and he returned him to the parents and said, give him a few days and then test him again. A few days went by and they tested the kid. Nothing. He was a 4-year-old kid. He didn't know anything. So the question was, why did the Belzer Rav do that? Here you had a 4-year-old Vilna Gaon. You had a 4-year-old Maimonides. You had a 4-year-old Rashi. You had a kid who was 4 years old who knew the entirety of Torah. Why would he do something to make him lose the Torah that he remembered, that he knew? And the answer clearly was because we're not here to know all of the Torah. We're here to toil, to learn all of the Torah. And the purpose of our lives is the toil. it's the effort, it's the hard work. The Vilna Gaon said about himself, this is kind of a crazy thing to say about yourself, but the Vilna Gaon said, remember how it's mentioned last week in the introduction to the Ramchal, that a Magid, a heavenly force, a heavenly being came and revealed secrets of Torah to the Ramchal? That wasn't an uncommon thing. Rav Yosef Karo, the author of the Code of the Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch, also had a Magi that came and revealed secrets of Torah to him. So the Vilna Gaon said about himself that the Magi, that heavenly Malach, that heavenly force, that angel, came and offered to the Vilna Gaon to reveal Torah to him. And you know what the Vilna Gaon said to the heavenly Magi? Get lost! I don't need you to reveal secrets for me. I don't need you. Whatever I can't accomplish and achieve in Torah through my own toil, I don't need. Not my purpose. My purpose in this world is to toil. Adam la'amal yulad. Our purpose is to toil in this world, not results. Results that's Hashem's department. But we have to toil. We can't be afraid of the hard work that needs to go into toiling in Torah. So I want to just wrap up for now and do a little review of this one sentence of the Ramchal that we've dissected. The foundation and the roots, because we're going to be building and planting, of being a tzaddik, of being a fully developed individual, is to clarify, think, pay attention to our toolbox, learn, seek advice from wise people, and then internalize, make it an integral part of who I am through the study of Musar, through personal prayer, through reflection. What is your unique individualistic purpose and mission in this world? Create and clarify your mission statement. Start with the end in mind, and then go all in with a total commitment and toil so that everything you do at all times must always be leading to your fulfillment and your purpose in this world. Yes, of course, breaks. Yes, of course, vacations. But ultimately, we have to be all in and totally committed to this purpose and this mission that we are sent here to do in this world. Okay, we're going to stop here and take questions, thoughts, comments, reactions, input, anything that anyone wants to share. Just unmute yourself and we'll be able to jump in. Anybody?
I want to ask you a question. That kid, well, first of all, the kid could very possibly be alive today, so one could find out. It doesn't sound good, whatever the Belzer rabbi did to him to make him forget that, but what about if it was a Gilgul? And I understand the point of, yeah, he should work on and toil at the one thing that, but it's worrisome to me. I don't like that somehow.
Right. So yeah. So I don't know. I honestly, those are one of those types of stories that I wouldn't believe that story. I by the way, I'm very skeptical about stories. I don't believe half the stories that I hear, but I don't think half the stories that you hear are actually meant to be believed. There's a lot of them are just there to illustrate points. But this story, actually, I do believe, only because of the rabbis that I famous rabbis that we've all heard of, that write in different places that they saw this kid and witnessed it for themselves.
I can believe it. I believe everything. So
I'm
that's
skeptical. So
on the wrong side.
I normally would not believe that story.
Yeah.
But because of the people like Ron Cutler and the Belzer Rav and the Stipler and other people who said they saw this kid, so I do believe it. But I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how to understand it. I don't know how to begin to process it. But what I do know, the only takeaway that from the story that I have is the one that I shared, which is that based on what the Vilna Gaon said when the Magid offered to teach him all the Torah, giving Torah secrets, our purpose is not about knowing the Torah. You're not here to know the Torah. You're here to toil in learning the Torah. And then, that's the only takeaway that I can salvage from that story that's useful to me. The rest, I don't know. The rest is so beyond comprehension. Who knows what the Belzer Rav saw and how he made him forget the Torah and what Of course, it could have been some kind of Gilgal reincarnation. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, right. Okay, are there other anything else that anyone wants to discuss? I'll write that quote if you want me to put that quote in here. The purpose.
David,
Yes.
it's Stacy, your cousin, and I'm so sorry I don't have
Hey,
a
Stacy.
picture of me, but it's me. So, how are you, by the way?
Good, great.
David, when I was sort of thinking about becoming secure, planting seeds for ourselves. I mean, this is where my mind went today when you were speaking. Becoming confident about who we are as individuals is such a major step, right? Before being able to do so much. And how some people seem to carry themselves with confidence and can do, others, that's not the case. And as a parent, I try so hard to instill confidence and certainly love with my children so they'll walk one day with security and do amazing things with their lives. But where does that confidence, the roots, the seeds, where does that come from? And how does one instill that?
Yeah, that is that. Well, I'll tell you something that Rabbi Twersky, not ours, meaning yours and my Rabbi Twersky, but Rabbi Twersky,
Yes.
Reb Michel's brother Abraham, said. So Abraham Twersky said that he wrote 80 something books, right?
Yes.
He said I only wrote one book, and I just wrote it in 80 different ways, and it was only about one thing, and that was self-esteem and self-confidence, right? So if the great famous Dr. Abraham Twersky, Alav Shalom, took 80 books to write on that one topic, it shows us that that is the question of our generation. That is the question. That is the challenge of our generation. And that is the question of our generation. And there's no easy answer to that, obviously. But as parents, it's certainly what we need to be fully focused on, is how to give our children that confidence, how to build it for them, how they can build it for themselves. And I don't honestly don't know. I don't know the simple answer. I do know that. Oh, there you are.
Yes.
I do know that David HaMelech, King David, had an answer to that question. This is not an answer that's going to resonate with your typical, teenager or whatever. But David HaMelech said, "Avi ve'imi yazavuni ve'Hashem yasfeni," which he's describing his own, autobiography. He said, "My father and my mother abandoned me, but Hashem gathered me in. Hashem took me in." That's what King David says in Psalms. Psalm 27, is it, with David? I think it's 27. And what does he mean over there? He means that that ultimately, real, true, unshakable self-esteem and self-confidence comes from knowing that Hashem created me. And not just that he created me 51 years ago, but he created me this morning when he put my neshama back into my body and said basically, "Yep, I believe in you. I'm going to give you another day because I believe in you because there's something that you and only you can achieve and accomplish in this world." And the proof of that is that I opened my eyes this morning, and Hashem put my neshama back in, fully invested my neshama back into my body. So I think that it's not really an answer to your question, because in a paradigm, in a secular, like non-religious paradigm, it's hard to explain that to your children. But if there's some way to build innate self-esteem in our kids through their understanding of the fact that their being, their essence, their existence is purposeful, and that if they're here, they have something that they and only they can contribute. And if there wasn't something that only they could contribute in this world, they wouldn't be here. I don't know how if you can do it with a God paradigm, that's easy. But if you don't have the God paradigm, then it's harder. But I remember, someone, I don't like to mention names, even though it's a nice thing, but somebody that a lot of us know. She told me once that every morning when her kids were younger, she might still do it. Her kids have gotten a little bit older. The kids wake up in the morning, and the first thing she would say to them is, "You know what? Oh, you woke up. That means that there's something that you and only you can accomplish today in this world. Keep your eyes open and try to figure out what that is." So I think there's something powerful to that. I think there's something. The great quote from Rabbi Nachman from Breslov is, "The day you were born is the day that God decided that the world can't exist any longer without you." But it's not just true about the day you were born, but it's true about today. Because if that weren't true right now, you wouldn't be here. So I think that that's the only real self-esteem. Self-esteem that's built on external factors. I'm a good athlete. I'm talented in this way, or I have this particular gift and I get praised for it, or whatever. That's shaky, because when you lose that ability, or you lose that talent, or you're no longer that athlete that you once were, or whatever, if you built your self-esteem artificially through external things that aren't intrinsic to who you are, then it's dangerous, because those things might not be there forever, or they may not be popular forever. So I don't know. I really
All
don't.
right. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thanks for the quote. Guys, yeah, Psalm 27. I love Zoom technology. It's so awesome. All right. Anything else?